2 review questions. We have a total of 22 review questions for this unit, so let's get straight into it. Just remember, once I've read out the question, to pause the video and record your answer before we move on to what the correct answer is. Question 1. Which one of the following organelles is correctly paired with its function? Mitochondria, release energy, cell membrane, control cell activity, nucleus, food preparation, ribosome, intracellular digestion. And the correct answer is A. Mitochondria releases energy through the process of cellular respiration. The nucleus controls the activities of the cell. Golgi bodies, they're actually concerned with the collecting and packaging and storing of substances, whereas the ribosomes make proteins. Question 2. When a cell is magnified by suing ocular of 4 times and the objective lens of 10 times, the magnified cell is 1 millimeters. What would be the original size of the cell? A. 14 millimeters, B. 40 millimeters, C. 0.028 millimeters, or D. 0.04 millimeters. So the first step, you just times those two together. The magnification would be 40, and then of course your original cell is 1 millimeter, so the original size would be 40 millimeters. The answer would be B. Question 3. The function of a cell wall is to A. Provide protection and support, B. Produce food by photosynthesis, C. Control the passage of water, or D. Prepare protein for plants. And the correct answer is A. Provide protection and support. The cell wall is an extra converging of a cell found enclosed the cell membrane. Unlike the cell membrane, it's completely permeable, and even though its composition varies in different cells, its function is the same, to provide protection and support. Question 4. Animal cells look irregular in their shape due to the absence of A. Cell membrane, B. Cell wall, C. Cytoplasm, D. Chloroplast. And the correct answer is B. Cell wall. The cell wall is rigid and a protective layer that covers the plants, and it's made up of cellulose. Question 5. Part of the compound microscope, represented by Y, is what? So it's the piece that adjusts the amount of light passing through the stage. What would that be? Is it the A. lamp or mirror, C. nose piece, B. diaphragm or iris, or D. arm? So the diaphragm, this is what adjusts the amount of light passing through, so the correct answer is B. Question 6. The correct order of mounting and focusing the specimen under the microscope is 1. So we've got a few different options here of the order in which the specimen should be placed under the side. Do you place the specimen before you place a drop of water, or do you place the specimen after you cover the specimen with a cover slide? Which one of those letters and the order of which those numbers go together is the correct procedure? Here's the solution. The first step is to place the specimen on the glass slide, then place the drop of water directly over the specimen, then cover the specimen with the glass slide, then place the specimen under the microscope, and finally focus the specimen using the fine adjustment for sharp focusing. So the correct answer was B. Question 7. Which of the following characteristics is not of plant cells? Plant cells are A, larger in size, B, have large vacuole, C, have small vacuole, D, are smaller in size. And the correct answer is going to be C, have a small vacuole. And this table sums up those differences there, plant and animal cell. Question 8. A specific ecological area that is occupied by a particular species of animals, plants, and other living organisms is called environment, habitat, ecosystem, or population. It is the habitat. Yes, the habitat is a place where an organism lives. Question 9. Simple microscope differs from the compound microscope in that it has A, a high magnification power, B, two objective lenses, C, two lens systems, or D, a single convex lens. And the answer is D, a single convex lens. And this table sums up the differences between the two very nicely. Question 10. What is the part of an animal cell labelled C in the diagram below? Is it A, nucleus, B, cytoplasm, C, plasma membrane, or D, central vacuole? And C there is the cytoplasm. So the answer is B. Question 11. Which of the following is common to both animal and plant cells? Is it A, central vacuole, B, chloroplast, C, cytoplasm, or D, cell wall? Remember this table? Yes, the answer is C. What do we call the joint that allows movement only back and forth? Is it a hinge joint, B, pivot joint, C, gliding joints, or D, ball and socket joints? So in a hinge joint, the surfaces hit together in a way that it permits movement only in one plane, and therefore that is the correct answer. Question 13. Suppose you view an object using a microscope. If the ocular lens is 10 times and the objective lens is 10 times, the objective view will be magnified by how many times? Is it A, 20 times, B, 10 times, C, 1,000 times, or D, 100 times? And it's as simple as multiplying those two together. So your solution is going to be D, 100 times, 10 times 10. Question 14. The microscope used by Anton van Leeuwenhoek differs from a compound microscope in that it A, uses a single lens, B, uses two lenses, C, has objective lenses, or D, has a greater magnification power. And his microscope only had one lens, so the answer is A. Question 15 and 16 are based on this diagram there on the right. Question 15. The structure indicated by 1 is what? Is it the A, cell wall, B, ribosome, C, vacuole, or D, cell membrane? It's not the cell wall because that is an animal cell. It is the D, cell membrane. Question 16 was also based on that previous photo, or diagram rather. A, which one, the cell structure that controls the activities of the cell is indicated by, let's go back here, which one of those? 1 and 2, 1 and 3, just number 3, or just number 2? That's right. The nucleus is 3 in there. That's what controls the activities in the cell. Question 17. Which of the following parts of a microscope are used to magnify cells? Is it A, ocular lens and objective lenses, B, mirror and ocular lenses, C, mirror and objective lenses, or D, fine adjustment and coarse adjustment? And the answer for this one is A, the ocular and objective lenses. They work together to form the image. The full description is written down there, but the correct answer is A. 18. Suppose you were to study plant cells under the microscope. Which of the following materials would you need to use? A, cheek cells and iodine, B, bacteria and methylene blue, C, onion cells and iodine solution, or D, cellulose and methylene blue. Remember that experiment we did with the onion cells? Onions are plant cells. They need iodine solution, so the answer is C. Question 19. If the eyepiece of a microscope is marked 8 times and the objective is marked 12 times, what is the total magnification? Is it A, 20 times, B, 4 times, C, 80 times, or D, 96 times? And the correct answer is D, 96 times. Yes, 8 times 12 is 96. Question 20. The preparation of a specimen for observation under a microscope is called, is it A, microscopy, B, mounting, C, magnification, or D, focusing? And the correct answer is B, mounting. Mounting is the preparation of a specimen for the observation under a microscope. Question 21. Which of the following structures are found in the cells of plants and animals? A, cell wall and cytoplasm, B, chloroplast and nucleus, C, large central vacuole and chloroplast, or D, cell membrane and cytoplasm? And the correct answer here is D, cell membrane and cytoplasm. And one last question, number 22. Which of the following statements is correct about cells? A, animal cells have a regular shape, B, plant cells have an irregular shape, C, most cells are microscopic, or D, cells of unicellular organisms are usually around the same size. All living things are not alike, and they do change a little bit, as we have learnt in this unit and this section of the unit. But most cells, this is the one thing here that goes true, most cells are too small to be seen without a microscope. And that concludes our review questions for this unit. These are the review questions for Unit 4, Plants. Let's jump straight into it. Question 1. Which structure of a leaf prevents excessive loss of water from leaf surfaces? Is it A, the spongy layer, B, palisade layer, C, air spaces, or D, cuticle? And the correct answer is D, the cuticle. The cuticle is the waxy layer that is found on the upper epidermis of the leaf, and it's concerned with preventing unwanted water loss. Question 2. An onion plant reproduces by producing bulb. This kind of reproduction is called A, sporulation, B, vegetative reproduction, C, double fertilization, or D, binary fission. And the correct answer is B, vegetative reproduction. Structures of a plant are classified as reproductive part, such as the flower, seed, or fruit, and the vegetative part, the root, leaf, and stem. The vegetative structures have functions that pertain to growth. Sometimes, however, the vegetative structures of a plant can be used in asexual reproduction, and that is vegetative propagation, which is what an onion and garlic plants do. Question 3. Which of the following is an adaptation favouring wind pollination? Is it A, large coloured petals, B, sticky pollen grains, C, long feathery stigmas, or D, short filaments? And the correct answer is C, long feathery stigmas, because of course they need to catch the wind pollinated pollen. So they'll have to have these long feathery stigmas sticking out so they can attach to the pollen very much easily. Question 4. Vascular tissues of plants include A, phloem and xylem, B, epidermis and endodermis, C, root cap and cortex, or D, xylem and epidermis? And the correct answer is A, phloem and xylem. Remember, the xylem transports water and dissolves minerals, and the phloem, that helps to move around sugars throughout the plant. Question 5. Which of the following does not show plant diversity? Is it A, distribution, B, photosynthesis, C, size, or D, type? The answer is B, photosynthesis. So distribution, size and type are all different ways in which plants can be diverse. Photosynthesis is of course that process in which sunlight is converted into usable energy. Question 6. Which of the following is a false statement regarding plants? A, they are multicellular organisms. B, they prepare their own food. C, they have cellulose cell walls. D, they are primary consumers. And the correct answer is D. They are primary consumers. That's a false statement. They are producers. Primary consumers are animals that would eat plants. Question 7. Which of the following is the male part of a flower? Is it A, the stamen, B, carpel, C, sepal, or D, petal? And the correct answer is A, stamen. Question 8. Which of the following statements is true? A, mosses and ferns do not have flowers. B, gymnosperms reproduce sexually using flowers. C, flowering plants are fewer than other plants. And D, tall trees can grow anywhere on land. And the correct answer is A, mosses and ferns do not have flowers. The other statements are all false. Question 9. Which of the following statements is true about roots? A, the epidermis of the root is covered by the cuticle. B, fibrous root system contain a single central main root. C, root systems tend to grow mainly in length than width. And D, the root does not contain xylem and phloem. And the correct answer is C. Root system tends to grow mainly in length rather than width, and the other statements are false. Question 10. Vegetative reproduction involving bulbs occurs in A, wild strawberry, B, banana, C, garlic, or D, ginger. And the correct answer is C, garlic. Onions, lilies, and garlic have swollen underground stem called a bulb. That's a really large bud with an adventitious root at the base. Question 11. Which of the following plants is an example of dicots? A, sunflower, B, wheat, C, barley, and D, corn. And the correct answer is A, sunflower. And we went over a few examples of some of the dicot plants. Others are cactuses, roses, peas, beans, mango. Remember the monocots. They are things like wheat, maize, rice, barley, sugarcane, bamboo, and so on. Which of the following plant roots can be an example of tap root systems? Is it A, corn root, B, wheat root, C, teff root, or D, carrot root? And the correct answer is D, carrot root. Tap roots usually obtain water located deep underground, and carrots are an example of a type of plant which will have a taproot system. The rest do not. Question 15. Which of the following is the function of plant roots? A, erecting the plant above the ground. B, involves in the process of photosynthesis. C, absorbing water and minerals from the soil. And D, providing the attachment of climber plants. And the correct answer is C, absorbing water and minerals from the soil. Of course, that's what the roots are used for: absorption, support, and also anchorage. Question 16. Monocots and dicots are different because the monocots have A, net leaf ventilation, B, parallel leaf ventilation, C, flower parts in 5, or D, vascular tissue arranged in a circle. And the correct answer is B, parallel leaf ventilation. And the differences between monocots and dicots are summarized in this table. Question 17. Which of the following is not true about the function of leaves? A, store food, B, gas exchange, C, transporting water from the root, D, transpiration. And the correct answer is C, transporting water from the root. The main functions of leaves are photosynthesis, gas exchange, storage of food, transpiration, but not transporting water from the root. 18. The main part of the plant which is involved in natural vegetative reproduction is A, stem, B, leaf, C, flower, D, seed. And the correct answer is A, stem. The stem is the main part that's involved in natural vegetative reproduction. Question 19. Which of the following is the unit of vegetative propagation for plants like onion and garlic? Is it A, bulb, B, culm, C, rhizome, or D, runner? And the correct answer is A, bulb. Of course, onions and garlic have got bulbs, and they use this for vegetative propagation. Question 20. Which of the following pairs of floral parts and their function is correctly paired? A, anther, contains ovule. B, filament, supports stigma. C, anther, contains pollen grains. D, style, supports anther. Here's the basic parts of the flower, and the correct one that's paired is C, anther, which is where the pollen grains are contained. And here's a nice summary of the list of the basic parts of the flower. Question 24. Which of the following plants have two cotyledons, or seed leaves? A, wheat and maize. B, barley and teff. C, sunflower and rice. D, beans and peas. And the correct answer is D, beans and peas. Dicot plants bear 2 cotyledons in their seeds, and some examples are mango, beans, peas, roses, cactuses, sunflowers, and also peanuts. Question 21. I know the numbers have mixed up here a little bit, but just roll with it. Which statement is not correct about plants? A, they are producers. B, they are a cellulose cell wall. C, they are multicellular. D, they store their food as glucose. And the correct answer is D, they store their food as glucose. That's incorrect. They store their food as starch. Question 22. Cones are the reproductive structures of A, ferns, B, gymnosperms, C, mosses, D, monocots. And the correct answer is B, gymnosperms. Question 23. To which of the following types of underground stems does a ginger belong? A, tuber, B, corm, C, rhizome, D, bulb. And the correct answer is C, rhizome. Perennial grasses, ferns, ginger, which is in this question, and many other plants produce these things called rhizomes, which are typically the horizontal stems that grow underground. Question 25. Which statement is true about grafting? A, 2 plants with best character are combined. B, it involves the union of gametes. C, it's natural vegetative propagation. And D, the stem of a plant is cut and placed in the soil. And the correct answer is A, 2 plants with the best character are combined. 26. The female structures of a flower include 1. Stigma, 2. Sepal, 3. Style, 4. Anther, 5. Petal, C. Receptacle, 7. Filament, 8. Ovary. Which ones of those is only the female parts? Line up the numbers. And the correct answer is D, 1, 3, and 8. The stigma, the style, and the ovary. These are the review questions for Unit 3, Human Biology and Health. We got 13 questions to go through. Once again, once I've read the question out, make sure to press pause and record your answer, and then we'll go through the answer one at a time. Question 1. The joint in fingers and toes is called A, hinge joint, B, gliding joint, C, pivot joint, or D, ball and socket joint. And the correct answer is A, hinge joint. It's a joint that allows the bones to fit together in such a way that permits motion only in one plane, forward and backward. Question 2. Which of the following is an example of short bones? A, bones of the upper arm, B, bones of fingers, C, bones of ribs, or D, bones of the lower arm. And the correct answer is no appropriate answer. Why is that? Well, based on their shape, bones can be classified as being long, short, flat, or irregular, and the classification is based on the shape of the bone rather than the size of the bone. For example, both small and large bones can be classified as long bones. Most of the bones of the upper and lower limb bones are the best examples of long bones. That include bones of the thigh, femur, and leg, as well as the arm, forearm, metacarpals, clavicle, and fingers. Examples of short bones are bones of the wrist, ankle, and there's also flat bones, such as the skull, and ribs, and so forth. Question 3. Which of the following statements is true about the function of muscles? A, cardiac muscles cause movement of bones. B, smooth muscles contract to pump blood. C, skeletal muscles allow body movement. Or D, cardiac and skeletal muscles function similarly. And the answer to this one is C. Skeletal muscles allow body movement. Question 4. What are the front chisel-shaped teeth of humans? Are they A. molars, B. canines, C. premolars, or D. incisors? And the correct answer is D. Incisors. These are the 4 front teeth in the mouth. All of these teeth are responsible for cutting or biting food. Question 5. Which of the following bones of human skeleton are categorized under the appendicular skeleton bones? Is it A. shoulder, B. skull, C. sternum, or D. rib? And the answer is A. shoulder. The appendicular skeletons is the bones of the limbs, the appendages, and they're the bones of the upper and lower extremities along with the associated girdles. So that includes the arms and legs, but also, yes, the shoulders, which was A, hips, and pelvic girdle.